Welcome back. Last week I interviewed the Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro on the crisis in Israel. This powerful emotional analysis made headlines around the world. 5 million people have watched that interview so far, a measure of the enormous emotion and division this conflict has awoken. Well, among those viewers was محمد Hijab, the controversial pro-Palestine influencer with nearly 1 million YouTube subscribers of his own. Here's what he had to say about it.
Do you think Piers Morgan, on fair grounds, would try and speak to me about an issue like this? Or Ben Shapiro, when they know what I'm going to come with? Absolutely not. Don't pretend you don't know who I am. You've been watching my videos. You know what I'm about. Your silence is deafening. And your cowardice is apparent.
Well, محمد Hijab joins me now. Mohammed, thank you very much for coming in. I hadn't actually watched your videos. I have now. I've watched a few of them. I'm aware you've got a massive following. You've got nearly 1 million YouTube subscribers. You're an influential person. And you have a lot to say about this issue, obviously. So I thank you for coming in. But I'm not too cowardly to talk to you. I don't have a horse in this race. I think I've tried to straddle a divide of being fair-minded with all sides. I've had all voices on the show.
I commend you for that, actually, to be honest, for bringing me on. But do realise I did caveat that with on fair ground. So let's hope that this interview is conducted.
I intend to be completely fair.
Yeah, sure.
I promise you, because all I want to get to here is a real sense of what is going to happen. We can all look back at. We can all look back. Let me just. We can all look back.
Before that, Piers. Yeah. Sorry, if you want to say fair grounds, you introduced me as a Palestinian controversial.
I actually corrected myself.
Right, so...
I said pro-Palestinian. I meant to say pro-Palestinian.
So why did the word controversial come into play?
I think you're controversial.
So are you.
Yeah, I wouldn't deny
So is the ambassador. Why didn't you introduce her in that manner?
I'm happy to say that to many people, her views would be controversial.
So why didn't you introduce me as the Oxford graduate?
Do you want to be introduced as that?
Yes.
OK, you're an Oxford graduate.
Go ahead.
OK. No problem. You can be introduced as anything you like, frankly. It makes no difference to the debate. Let me ask you this. Where were you when you heard about what happened on October the 7th?
I was at home.
What was your reaction when you heard?
I was actually very sickened by it. And this is something I do want to put on the table because I think it's fair for people to know this. In our religion, we do not believe, okay, as a Muslim, I am a Muslim, and I do not believe in the killing of any man, woman or children, non-combatants. That is not despite the religious teachings. That is because of the religious teachings. So in terms of condemning Hamas and just jumping straight into it, I condemn not only Hamas but any other entity, okay, wherein it's proven that this has been done, that the killing of combatants has been done. Therein, I condemn any party that does it. Any party that kills people or strikes at people where it's more probable than not that it will hit a civilian target, I condemn them. And that's why I condemn the IDF. Because when they strike, they know that it's more probably than not going to hit civilian target. They know that the majority of civilians, or the majority of people that are going to be affected are civilians. We know that from the various operations that have been conducted. We know that because now in Gaza you find that there is a blockade, as you know, for 17 years, but also they're stopping them from electricity, water, which is a war crime under Geneva 4 of the Geneva Convention, Protocol 4 of the Geneva Convention. So this is something I'm surprised you didn't actually mention to the ambassador.
But I did mention it.
You didn't say it's a war crime.
Well, I think it's an arguable point whether it's a war crime.
Okay, let me ask you now.
They are saying, Israel, at the moment, Israel is adamant they are not breaching war crimes, right? It will be determined. Well, it will be determined whether that's the case.
No, sorry.
That's
incorrect.
Mohammed, let me make a point to you back on that. I think surely we can agree that what happened on October the 7th was a war crime. I mean, when people are taking grandmothers and executing them, kidnapping young children, when they're killing babies in their cribs, we can agree that's war crime, right?
Okay, babies.
Can we?
Surely, of course, 100%.
Right.
But babies in the crib. Sorry, what was the evidence for that?
You don't believe that happened?
Sorry, CNN, the White House, Sky News, which you work for, all say.
I don't work for Sky News.
Well, your thing.
I did work at CNN. I saw one reporter who retracted it because she wasn't sure about the source.
It's unconfirmed by the White House.
But then the Daily Telegraph and the Jerusalem Post and other sources then did publish pictures which indisputably show babies have been killed.
No, it showed one baby who's been charred, and that picture has been put up on Twitter and has been refuted by many people saying that it's actually AI.
That's completely untrue.
That is true. What's your source?
Mohammed, there's been a thorough investigation into the claim that was put up there by some rogue person on Twitter that it was AI. It has been completely disproven.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
That picture, which was published on the Telegraph, is a genuine, legitimate picture.
What is your source?
Are you seriously arguing that babies weren't killed?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, what are you saying?
I'm saying, give me a source.
Yeah.
You know full well you've been fired from the Daily Mirror for fake images. So you know full well about the
I didn't accept they were fake.
Exactly. The UK government did.
Yeah, they did.
So
Because the UK government, just to be clear,
Sure.
had waged, in my view, an illegal war in Iraq.
So you're allowed to go against the government, and I'm not allowed to go against the Israeli government?
Of course you're allowed to.
So tell me now, what's the source?
You seem to be making a lot of presumptions about me, Mohammed.
Yes, I had softball questions.
I was
for
the
your
editor.
Ambassador
No, they weren't. I put all the questions to the ambassador. I was the editor of the Daily Mirror when we opposed the Iraq war on the grounds that I believed it was an illegal war.
Yeah.
I still believe that to this day. I think it stained this country.
Fantastic.
I don't think you even knew that.
I did know that.
Right.
But that's not the point I was making. I was making the point that if you're allowed to go against the government in their classification of an image, then if you have pro-Palestinian activists who are saying, actually, we need to see a source, shouldn't they be entitled to that?
The Daily Telegraph published on page 3.
Should they be entitled to that, yes or no?
Talking about, the Daily Telegraph said they had independently verified the picture, Mohammed.
No, excuse me.
If you're saying that their verification is wrong...
No, excuse me. Primary source in academia... I know you've done a journalism degree, which is, frankly, it's not relevant to what we're talking about here anyway.
Probably is to journalism, yeah.
No, it's not to this conflict. But we, academics, require primary source evidence in order to make it...
The Daily Telegraph said they verified the picture.
That's a secondary source.
Fine. You may say...
That's a secondary source.
You may say...
That's a secondary source.
Well, you may say you don't think it's genuine. I don't agree with you. But the wider point...
That was my point. I said I want a source. I just want to see the evidence.
I know what we're arguing about here. You're not contesting that babies were killed.
No, I'm saying I want to see the evidence.
So why are you picking on the semantics of the veracity of one picture, which has been verified by British journalists? Why are you picking on that?
British journalists are
some
not an
example
authority.
of somehow this wasn't as bad as it seems.
British journalists are not an academic authority. You know that full well. You've been fired from Daily Mirror for that very purpose. What I'm saying to you is this, putting this issue to the side, I think you're trying to use this as a red herring to move away from the bigger
What
issues.
red herring?
This is a red herring because already 1,023 children have been killed in Gaza. That's why. And you didn't ask the ambassador that question.
I literally asked the ambassador.
No,
I said 3,000 people have already been killed in a week in
Gaza.
Gaza.
Well, you didn't ask her.
Did you even listen to my interview with the ambassador?
I did listen, but excuse me.
Well, don't put words in my mouth or say I didn't ask a question.
Let me ask you a question. Do you condemn the killing of those children by the IDF?
I'll tell you what I condemn.
Yes or no?
I'm going to answer your question honestly and truthfully.
Sure.
And because I've tweeted about this, right?
Well, okay.
I think that what happened on October the 7th was one of the worst atrocities I have ever had to read about or watch on
video. It happens every day in Palestine.
No.
So why do you care about that?
It actually doesn't. It doesn't.
It does actually.
No.
Yes.
No. The Israeli forces...
I've got the stats for that.
Israeli forces do not go...
Cast-led,
Wait a minute,
protective
Mohammed.
edge. Go and check it out.
Mohammed, Israeli forces...
Cast-led, protective edge.
Israeli forces don't go into Gaza on one day and grab grandmothers and kill babies in their beds.
Okay.
And
no, hold on.
Rape and abuse women.
So, rape, is there any evidence for that?
It's been multiple reports in multiple mainstream media publications. Well, you're going to sit here and deny everything,
No,
right?
I'm not denying anything.
You are?
No, I accept that some civilians have been killed. I do accept this. And I already said...
You don't believe any of the reports that women were raped?
No, I didn't say that. I said that it's still to be
do you
verified.
think they were raped?
No, I don't know. It's like the Russell Brand thing. You said we don't know any evidence. So why do you apply two different standards?
Okay, so
when it's Israel, we know they're raped. When it's Russell Brand, you don't know because you're friends.
No, it's been reported by legitimate news sources.
When it's Israel, you know they're raped. But when it's Russell Brand, you don't know.
Them.
When it's Russell Brand, you don't know if they're raped.
There's no comparison between Russell Brand and what's happened
It's the same thing. It's a rape allegation. Why are you stuttering?
I'm not stuttering.
You are stuttering. You don't have anything to say.
You're contesting every single thing that I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
and I'm
the
saying
point of an argument.
At the end, 1,300 people were brutally
2,000 people have been killed on the other side.
Abused.
2,000 people have been killed on the other side.
I said that to the ambassador.
Okay, but do you condemn that, yes or no?
I don't think...
So you refuse to condemn?
No.
You do refuse to condemn?
Why are you putting words in my mouth?
Because you're not condemning it, are you?
What do you want me to condemn?
Israel's right. Excellent. What do I want you to condemn?
Yes.
I want you to condemn the fact that the IDF, knowing that it's more probable than not, pressing buttons from the sky, killing innocent civilians, 1,000 of them children, that is a war crime and that is not acceptable morally. Just like you condemn the other one. Is it condemnable or not?
I believe, given the scale of what Hamas did on October the 7th, Israel is entitled to
kill children.
No, that's not what I said.
Go ahead.
They're entitled to defend themselves with force.
Okay, excellent.
Then the question becomes, Mohammed, it's an interesting debate.
Sure.
If, as it seems to me, you believe too, Hamas are not a force for good, do you believe that?
Well, I think that anybody who kills children and those elements of Hamas who are killing children...
Right, so we can agree. So we agree. So my point is, if Israel's purpose is to rid the world of Hamas after the atrocity of October the 7th, How do they do that, given that Hamas embeds itself in civilian areas in the way that it does? Everyone knows that in Gaza.
Okay.
How do they do that
Excellent.
in this surgically clean way, Gaza?
Okay.
How do they do that
Excellent.
in this surgically clean way that you seem to think they should be doing?
Okay, can I say...
How do you not kill civilians?
Beautiful.
I don't like any civilian death.
Do you mind if I answer the
I don't endorse any civilian death.
Well, no.
Do
You don't condemn it, though.
Hang on.
Yeah.
No, and here's why. Because I support Israel's right to defend itself.
Beautiful.
Now,
can I say something?
No, one more point. So then
Go
you
ahead.
can reply.
Sure.
But the question then becomes, what is proportionate?
Okay.
What is a proportionate response?
Okay.
I don't have the answer.
Excellent.
Because I don't know what a proportionate response to 1,300 murders is. When 260 young people at a music festival, most of them peace-loving people enjoying themselves at a festival, when they get slaughtered by people paragliding in with machine guns, I don't know what the proportionate response is.
Piers, let me respond to you.
So can you tell me?
You've spoken for about 2 minutes. You didn't do that with the ambassador, by the way. I'm just showing you're saying fair, but you're not being fair.
I've said
okay,
what I want to say.
So let me paint a picture.
I will be fair.
Sure.
I'm genuinely interested in what you have to say.
All right, excellent. You're from Irish descent. You know that there was an IRA in Belfast and so on. Okay, so let me ask you a question now. If there was IRA in Belfast and they were occupying council properties and so on, and then we have a plane of RAF going to destroy that council property, destroy all of Belfast, flatten it, as one representative said, Gottlieb. The IDF said that. One of the IDF members said that we will flatten it completely. That's what we want to do. We don't care about accuracy, he said. We care about damage. That's what he said. You didn't question her about that. But anyway, if the RAF were to then go into Belfast and flatten, as the IDF and these guys want to do, if they want to flatten Belfast with all the white people, I'm going to use the term white, all the white people, council estates living in there, with the excuse that we're doing it because it's proportionate defense to the terrorists. What would you say about that?
Here's what I would say to you.
Is that acceptable or unacceptable?
Here's what I would say to you.
Yeah.
The IRA committed a series of atrocities over numerous decades. They targeted, in their eyes, military and political targets. They usually gave some form of warning, not always.
Okay.
They
were terrorists.
No, they were terrorists.
Sure.
They never, ever went out one day and committed the barbaric slaughter of 1,300...
Irrelevant.
No.
If they did.
Sorry, it's not irrelevant.
If they did.
No, Mohammed.
If they did.
Here's why it's not irrelevant.
Okay.
They never did.
But if they did, would you accept the RAF to flatten Belfast?
By the way, there were outrages committed by
the
loyalist paramilitaries too.
My question is,
here's my point.
If they did, would you think it's acceptable?
They never came close to committing an outrage on that scale.
If they did, is it acceptable
They
to
never
flatten
went
Belfast?
in and kidnapped grandmothers or killed babies in cribs.
Did, is it acceptable or not?
They believe they were fighting for better or worse, and I believe for worse, and that's why I'm glad peace was found. They believe they were fighting political and military targets.
I'm trying to bring it closer to home to you.
You're trying to compare apples and oranges.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
It's you that's doing that.
The only comparison that I would say that we saw from October the 7th and what Hamas did is with ISIS.
Excuse me.
It's the only comparison.
Do you mind if let me ask you a question. A Palestinian...
And ISIS were taken out, by the way, with planes...
Me.
No, here's my...
You didn't do this with the ambassador.
I'm going to finish.
You did this with Ben Shapiro, which you gave the show to him.
No, hang on. I'm giving you plenty of time.
No, you're not.
I'm giving you plenty. You asked about the analogy of a plane flying over and targeting...
But you didn't answer my question.
But that did happen, Mohammed, with ISIS.
Would you accept Belfast to be flattened
wait a minute.
or not? Yes or no?
Wait a minute. It never happened, so the like for like isn't relevant.
It's a hypothesis. It's hypothetical.
It's not. I don't do hypotheticals.
You don't do hypotheticals?
No, let's deal with reality.
Okay, let's deal with reality.
Mohammed, let me finish. Then you can answer.
So you don't want to ask a question?
No. Here's the reality.
British public can see this.
Here's the reality, right?
British public can see this.
Yeah, they can see it.
Yeah, go on.
They listen to the debate.
Keep going.
Right? For what it's worth, I think it's a good debate to have. Right? These are questions many people on the pro-Palestinian side are having. I get it, right? But you're trying to compare what happened on October the 7th with the IRA.
No, I'm not. I used a hypothetical
wait a minute, Mohammed.
question.
I'm comparing it to ISIS. And the way that the world in the end dealt with ISIS actually was to use airstrikes. And many civilians were killed.
There's a huge difference.
Many innocent people died. They're not.
You don't understand it because you have no idea of the religious...
What's the difference between what happened on October the 7th and ISIS?
The difference between the Palestinian resistance is the following, okay? Any kind of thing which has Palestinian resistance attached to it, and ISIS, which is a brand of tekfirism, okay, is that ISIS is just one of many brands of tekfirism, which you don't know what it is, which is a kind of excommunication type heresiological Islamic sect. Okay, so if there's
It's nihilistic mass murder. That's all they care about.
Listen, I know what you're saying, but I'm saying something else.
You agree with me, don't you?
I do, but of course I do, but you're not understanding what I'm saying, so I'm trying to break it down.
I am understanding what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that anything...
And I'm not anti-Palestinian, by the way.
Sure, please, but...
Over the many years, if you bothered to check what I said about it, I have always tried to shine a light on the plight of the Palestinians.
Allow me to speak, please, because you're just talking over me. The difference between the two are the following, right? Even if we assume that the killing of combatants in most definitions of terrorism is something which brings someone to be a terrorist, okay? I would say that if that is the case, then the state of Israel breaks that threshold and meets that condition. Because why is Israel not a state terrorist? If their highest officials are admitting that we want damage and not accuracy. Answer me this question. Why is the state of Israel, who are illegally occupying Gaza and the West Bank according to international law, and even the ICJ said that, okay, which is, as you know, an organ of the UN, all right? So this is international law. They're occupying, they're seizing, they're bombarding, they're indiscriminately killing, and they're blocking the supply lines. They're using white phosphorus. They're doing what you call mowing the grass, which is every few years, they're killing the Palestinian people.
I
want to understand what differentiates an Israeli in the sky pressing a button, killing the civilians, from somebody in any terrorist organization shooting the people. What differentiates it?
Israel will say it has a right to defend itself.
So will the terrorists? Right? That's what Osama bin Laden said.
And they will.
That's exactly Osama bin Laden's argument.
No, it's not though.
Yes, it is. I read his fatwas.
Hamas aren't defending themselves. Bin Laden wasn't defending himself.
Define defense.
Bin Laden was trying to kill as many of the enemy as possible.
Let me ask you a question. How could it be that an occupier is defending itself in the first place? The notion that Israel is defending itself is as absurd as the notion that the rapist is defending itself from the victim. Because Israel is the occupier.
You haven't asked me.
Hold on. Excuse me, let me finish. Just let me finish. An occupier by international law definition means that they are already in an offensive posture. If they're in an offensive posture, if someone brings you to Piers Morgan, grabs you by the thing, throws you into your bathroom, you're in your bathroom, you're screaming and they're eating food, having a good time. One day you come out of your bathroom, you try and fight one of them, who's defending who from who?
Mohammed,
how can you self-defend when you're occupying? Answer me this question.
Let me speak now.
No, but answer the question.
Let me speak.
Answer the question first.
Fine, I'm going to speak.
Yeah.
Let me answer.
Yeah.
I believe that Israel's made a number of bad choices.
That's not answering my question.
Wait. I'm telling you what I think.
You're not answering my question.
Telling you what I think.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay? I don't think Israel's been perfect at all. Right?
You said they had the moral high ground.
I think a lot of the decisions Israel's taken are wrong. I think Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way, his attempts to usurp the power of the Supreme Court this year in Israel has been a complete disaster.
Do you condemn them from killing civilians or not?
I do not. I will defend them this week.
Yes or no?
Wait.
Yes or no?
I will defend them this week in defending themselves against one of the worst terror attacks ever.
So you can kill civilians for that?
You can target Hamas.
Can you target? No, hold on.
And if Hamas, the controlling, governing, ruling body in Gaza, hide amongst the public,
this is a false.
Members of the public will die.
You're talking about fallacies. This is called the Moat and Bailey fallacy, which is that you're trying to defend one controversial idea by using another. It's Moat and Bailey fallacy. You can check it up on your own time. The point is this. I'm not asking you whether Israel has a right to defend itself. We've already said of the logical and legal impossibility. The logical and legal impossibility of an occupying power, according to international law, of actually defending itself because it's already... Let me finish. It's already in an offensive posture. Now, I'm saying this. If it is the case, you're just saying it's defending itself against Hamas. Is the only way to defend itself against Hamas by dropping bombs in the most densely populated area, one of the most densely populated areas in the world? Is that the only way? It's a false dichotomy. You're creating a false dichotomy. They could do surgery. They can do it. They can go in and they can target.
We're going to take
Hamas.
a short break. I'm going to keep you here. I want to finish this. I want to give you the time. I think it's an important debate, an important conversation.
Sure. But you have to answer my questions.
I will. We'll come back. Yeah, but actually, you have to answer mine. It's my show. Actually,
I can answer
for the record. You can ask me as many questions as you want, but I'll tell you what I think.
I've answered all your questions.
We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and we're going to finish with a few more minutes. Okay. Welcome back to Piers Morgan says, well, Mohammed Hijab is still with me. Mohammed, we've had a lively debate. I knew it would be a lively debate. This is a very important issue. It's a passionate issue. People on both sides. If I tweet about anything, doesn't matter what I say. One side, if I'm even remotely sympathetic to them, the other side, poor abuse and vice versa and so on. Let's try and cut through it all and get to what happens here. How do we find peace in the Middle East? I've been covering Israel-Palestine since I've been a journalist, 3 decades. And it seems to me we're as far away now as we've ever been. How do you think we get to a place of peace?
You'll be surprised. Look, even Hamas, some 4 or 5 years ago, they even agreed to the 1967 lines, the borders. And what you have to understand, that this cannot be scapegoated on Hamas, because before Hamas's existence, this was still going on. This was going on before Israel's existence.
But do you believe in a two-state solution?
No, I believe in... Look, even Hamas was proposing a two-state solution.
But do you believe in it?
Look, there's advantages and disadvantages. This is a different... I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one.
Could you imagine 2 states next to each other living in peace? Palestine, Israel.
Look, it's a possibility. I mean, as I say, even Hamas was saying that that's a possibility. I mean, this was 4 years ago. But what I want to bring to your attention is that nothing can happen if the international body or the UN becomes a toothless agency. In 2018 to 19, when actually 221 people were killed on a peaceful protest in Gaza. It was called the Great March of Gaza. 220 people died. Hamas didn't shoot a bullet. No rocket was launched, yeah? So 220 people died, and this is even mentioned by the UN and these kind of agencies. They tried to bring it up, the Palestinian Authority, they tried to bring this up to what we call the ICJ, which is part of the UN, okay? What happened is the Donald Trump administration, they threatened to freeze the assets of the ICJ, which tells you the following. What are the Palestinian people to do? Because the fact of the matter is, if they try and bring it up...
Let me ask you...
let me finish the point. Let me finish the point. If they try and bring it up...
We're running out of time. That's why I'm jumping in.
But if they try and bring it up to international law, it's thwarted.
I do think
international
law matters.
Sure.
I just don't believe that any peace can be achieved with Hamas in charge. Do you?
Before Hamas...
Now, after what happened last weekend.
Forget about last weekend. Last weekend is...
Can't forget about last weekend.
No, it's not. Before last weekend, before Hamas in 1987, this was still going on.
But not on this scale. And
worse.
No, it wasn't as bad as this.
What are you talking about?
What happened on October 7th
sorry, that shows ignorance
was
of history.
The single worst assault on a populace since 9/11. It was.
Yom Kippur War was 2,600 people died, by the way. 1973. That's false.
In one day?
In one day, I don't know, about 600 people died in one day.
Mohammed, I've got to leave it there. We've run out of time. I gave you more time than I planned to. I hope you appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you coming in.